Where's your invite? You go. How much up right now? This is there. I mean, you want to get it way back, not there.
I think your mic might be on, Kenny. But it sounded tasty.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Highland Health and Social Care Committee. So just one or two technicalities to start us off. The meeting is being conducted through Teams and will be recorded and available on the internet for a period of 12 months. So your participation in the meeting is taken to mean consent for the recording of the meeting. Paul, is there something that you want to raise?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, there was an old diary invite that myself and Ian Thompson were sitting in, and I wondered if we could get Ian in. I'll try and invite him myself. And just to clarify if those can be sorted out going forward, thanks.
Okay, well, there's certainly new diary invites being circulated. I don't know, Stephen, do we need to check that there isn't anybody else? in the old meeting invite?
Yeah, sorry, I put my hand up. That's entirely my fault. I'm Stephen. I'm the new administrator. I've been trying to rectify that this morning, so hopefully everyone who should be here is here.
Okay. Well, we've got quite a long list of participants I can see from my screen here. So let's just hope that there isn't anybody else sitting there. Sorry about that, Paul. Okay, where was I? Yes, so and could I ask Stephen what apologies we have for this afternoon's meeting?
We have apologies from Louise Bussell, from James Brader, Adam Palmer, and Linda. I've forgotten her name, unfortunately. She's Linda Monroe as well.
Okay, Nicola, did you want to add in something there?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It was just to give my apologies that I'll need to nip off at about 2:40 for about 20 minutes. I need to pick my daughter up from school and drop her at Granny's, and I'll come back in after that if that's okay.
Wow, the time management of the teams and family life. Well done there. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so I just want to give a few updates. Could I just ask Stephen as well, do we have any members of the public joining us today, other than those that have been invited to give a presentation to the committee?
Not so far, no. I
No.
think someone might have forwarded the invites to someone else, but I don't think anyone else has joined.
Okay, maybe you could just keep an eye on that for me, could you?
Yeah.
In terms of participants. Okay. So I think we might well have with us, though, some of the new lay representatives who will be joining the committee from the 1st of June. And I see Wendy giving us a wave there. So I'm very pleased to announce that the last recruitment round was very successful, and we have appointed to the 2 vacant positions, one patient public representative position, who will be Michelle Stevenson, and the carer representative position, which will be Wendy Smith. So they were invited to join as observers today, and they'll be taking up their positions on the 1st of June, and their first meeting will be the meeting at the end of June. So welcome, Wendy and Michelle. We're very pleased to have made those appointments. I can see somebody else with their hand up here. Jackie, was there something you wanted to?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it was just to let you know that the COVID response team are here ready for the presentation, if that's helpful.
Okay, Jackie, you were very breaking up there, but yes, I'm going to come on to the presentation in a minute. So the final thing I just wanted to update you on was that we had a very useful development session this morning around end-of-life care and developments planned to improve services in that area. And we've agreed that a report will come to a future committee outlining progress with that project, so that we can use the very useful discussion that we had this morning within the main committee. So you'll be seeing a report on that project in due course. So today's meeting is a very important meeting, focusing on adult social care, and we're starting by hearing from a number of people who have been very much at the forefront of adult social care response and involvement in the pandemic. I think it's really important that we acknowledge the contribution of our social care colleagues, not just in the care home sector that we tend to hear a lot about, but also in care at home. And I'm very pleased that we're going to hear directly from people about their experience of working through the pandemic. And I'd just like to, I'm not sure, is Simon, is Campbell going first? Or Jackie?
I'd suggest Jackie first, if that was okay, Chair.
Okay, so I'd just let people introduce themselves to the committee. So Jackie, would you like to kick off?
Apologies for that. Sorry, we're having some tech problems and we're having difficulties hearing as well. Yes, thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to this meeting today to talk about the COVID response team. I'm Jackie Hodges, Head of Registered Services, and for the past year, sorry, I'm being told to turn it down a wee bit. For the past year, I've had an oversight of the response team. Since May 2020, the response team have supported a variety of services for over 40,000 hours, many of them in outbreak situations. It has without doubt been one of the most unusual years of my working life, and one where I felt the most challenged, a deep sense of responsibility and a complete admiration for my adult social care colleagues. Today's not about me though. Today I'd like to introduce you to some of the key members of the team, two of whom have worked in multiple outbreak sites, so they can tell you in their own words how the experience has been for them. First though, Laura will give you a brief overview of her role within the team.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello, I'm Laura Morrison, Principal Officer of Adult Social Care Services and the Manager of the COVID Response Team. In April last year, we embarked on a rapid recruitment process to meet the brief we were given. Along with our colleagues, we interviewed over 100 people in total. We weren't exactly clear on what we were preparing for, but we as a wider team had agreed an approach from the outset that we would recruit to values, and that the primary focus would always be on providing a supportive experience for this new team, albeit mainly navigated online. It weighed heavily on us during the recruitment process and the fast-track training that followed of just what we were asking these courageous new team members to do. COVID was still very much the unknown, but we understood there was great risk attached to these deployments. We received an extraordinary level of support from our adult social care colleagues and wider NHS teams who prioritised our every need, from travel, HR, payroll, finance to training and psychological supports. The mandatory training was quickly adapted to ensure that infection prevention control, adult support and protection and welfare practices were at the forefront of everyone's minds. Once the team were deployed, there was a real sense of responsibility and helplessness from those of us who were left behind. We knew now that they were as good as the training that we had given them and the support that they had in each other. Our commitment remained that as long as the team member was deployed, that we would always be there as a management or team lead and available on call to them. Daily briefs were offered following every shift. I feel that we are still processing what this last year meant to us all, but I certainly feel an immense sense of pride to have worked alongside this special team and my adult social care colleagues. It is now my pleasure to introduce two of our team members who have now worked in 4 outbreak sites over the last year in Highland. Please welcome Louise Quinn and Kay Ferret. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Louise Quinn and I'm one of the seniors in the response team. I was very proud to be offered my part in the COVID team with an element of fear of what it entailed and a mix of people coming together that didn't know each other or how they worked or personalities would all get on. But we all spoke to each other, and that first shift I was like, we all knew. We all started to bond, and the bond just got stronger and stronger. I felt safe and secure within the team. It was the first time I'd been away from my family, so I was anxious as to how my family were and how they would be safe, but I knew they were safe. It was hard phoning home without tears in my eyes every day. We all had something we could bring to the team, and we all helped each other through our training and listening to each other and just being there. I remember when I first walked into the first deployment and thinking, we're here to help, not to judge, so no rolling of the eyes. But at the same time, it was like, what have we walked into? I can't walk away from this. They need our help, they need everything we can give. How will I get my car home as we're all going to catch this and we're not going home in the health we came? I hoped my children remembered how tight I hugged them and how much I will always love them. It was a mix of emotions all at once. Fear, pride, heartache, and most of all, we need to help. You could see how the infection had spread. It took its hold in there, and we just had to find a way of being polite but not judgmental, and to come across as rude. But it just felt like something kicked in, and we stepped up. It was like a natural instinct. We had a huge skill set. We were cleaning, we'd done care, we'd done laundry. We just done it. And if we ever felt we needed time out, the team covered. They always checked on us. We all checked on each other. If we needed food or drink, a text to the group chat, and it was there within 5 minutes. We washed each other's clothes, no questions asked. Our clothes were left at a doorway, and when we got back from our shift, they were folded and put in a bag for us to take back to our room. If we ran out of PPE, a text to the team, and it was there within minutes. It was amazing how we all pulled together to be there for one another 24/7, and no ask was too big. How safe I felt was amazing, and I beamed with pride to be part of this. A family was formed from a group of strangers, and a bond I've never known in unprecedented times. We learned a lot about each other, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned I was far braver and far stronger than I ever thought I was. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ferret. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon and give you an idea of what the team have been doing this last year. I came into the team in May. I came into a family. I felt anxious about working with COVID, have a young family at home and a daughter shielding. When I arrived, I was anxious about what I was going to encounter, but I initially felt at ease. The people around me were unknown to me, but felt like family already. I knew then what I was going to do was important, but I knew that whatever I did, these people were behind me. Anything that I needed was brought to me, be it a bottle of water or a virtual hug. A familiar pair of eyes offered comfort. Everyone worked together. Nothing was an issue. Being away from my family was very hard, and I felt support emotionally and physically by the entire team, which allowed me to stay and do what I was there to do. I had to be very patient, non-judgmental from what was a very, very eye-opening experience. People were dying and had died, which affected us coming in, new people, and had impacted the team that were there. One evening I supported 3 people at the end of life. I felt a really strong desire to ensure that these people were not alone. Although we were in a pandemic and we were strangers, I wanted to offer them comfort in their final moments. That has given me an immense sense of pride to be included in this experience, which has been somewhat of a roller coaster. I feel I've been supported within the team to grow, and I'm excited to see where we'll go next. Jackie?
Thank you very much, Louise and Laura. An extraordinary year we've had. I would also like to just say thank you to my wider adult social care management team, who, with the support that you gave me and the guidance and advice and trust in my judgment, usually you allow me to have the confidence to do this role and the rest of the team to the best of my ability. And I'm really, really grateful for that, and I've learned a lot from that as well. We've got a lot to process, as you can tell. We've had a couple of social hours preparing for this, presentation, and we know that we've got a lot to process and a lot to learn as well. But thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear the team's voices. If anybody wants to ask any questions, we'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackie, Louise and Kay. And thank you, Louise and Kay, for sharing your experiences with us. I think that gave us a very good flavour of how emotional an experience this has been for you and your colleagues. So thank you very much for sharing those personal experiences with us. Would anybody like to ask any questions of our three colleagues? Nicola.
It wasn't a question, Anne. I just wanted to say thank you, really. I found it quite difficult to listen to that without tearing up, so I can only imagine the emotional strain that they were under when they stepped up and did that. I remember at the time feeling like it was no problem being told to stay home because all you wanted to do was hide in the house. So I can't even imagine the bravery it takes to put yourself on the line like that. So I just wanted to record my thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. Michael?
Thank you. I found, rather like Nicola, very humbling to hear those accounts. And as you said, it was emotional, but it also struck me as highly professional. I've live on the North Coast. Due to my age and underlying health conditions, I've basically been at home for the last 12 months. So I haven't had any involvement in this thing at all. And all I see is what I see on the television and that sort of thing. And I would like to propose that this committee put forward a formal thanks to the staff of NHS Highland for all the work they've done and our admiration for them as well.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm sure we can take that as read, that we will do that, absolutely. Anybody else got any questions or comments they'd like to make at this stage? Not seeing any hands up, so while I'm waiting, we'll
Anne, you've gone on to mute.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask what you feel is the most important learning that you've taken from your experiences over the last few months.
Thank you. I think Kay would like to answer that. We all had our hands up, but Kay's going to go with that one. Thank you.
The most important learning, I think, for myself has been one of support. I think that people are here and how we felt supported by the people that we were behind us when we were doing what we had to do last year. And learning for us obviously has been through our training, to keep ourselves safe, in order to do everything that we needed to do last year, was to keep everything right with our PPE. So that's what I want to say. Louise?
And thank you for your kind words, for listening to what we had to say.
Yeah.
It's very touching.
Okay, thank you for that. And I was just wondering, and a paper later on in the meeting touches on how the response team might develop going forward. And I just wanted to ask how you have been, if you have been involved in discussions about how the work of the team might change or develop or whatever going forward.
Yes, we have been involved in that, and we'll help guide the team whichever path they're going to go along, the two arms of the unit that which they have discussed with us. I'm hoping that it's going to continue. I think that we're doing a really good and valuable job. I think that the things that we've been doing as a team as this year it's been so diverse, it's been in different settings, and we're learning so much. We can help out in so many different situations, and I think that I think that we should continue, and I'd like to see that continue.
Okay, would your colleague or Jackie like to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I think that we are excited to see what the future looks like, and I think obviously with the Feely report coming out recently as well, I think that talks to a lot of the approach that we took within the care response team. I think that we really do like that value-based approach that Laura talked about, and yeah, we're excited to see. We have learning. It wasn't all straightforward. We've taken a lot of learning along the way, and I think we've been able to be quite reflective. So that will inform the way that we progress, but we are really keen not to lose traction that we've got within this extraordinary time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to invite Campbell to speak next, but stay with us if you can for the remainder of this part of the meeting, because you know, there may be crossovers with what we're going to hear next from Campbell. Campbell, would you like to kick off?
Chair, thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks, Stephen, for keeping us right. Chair, am I coming through clearly enough? Am my voice clear? Yeah. So yeah, good afternoon. Look, I'll try and keep this fairly brief and not push the meeting behind time. First of all, by way of introduction, many of you know me, but some won't. My name is Campbell Mayer. I'm proud and privileged to be the Chief Executive of Highland Home Carers, based in Inverness, but spread across Highland. Our business is as Scotland's largest employee-owned company, one of the largest social care organisations in Scotland, by some margin the largest in the Highlands in terms of independent and third sector. I also, along with Simon Steer, co-chair NHS Highland Strategic Planning Group. I sit in the Scottish Government Fair Work Group as part of Feely Report, and I'm an active National Committee member of Scottish Care. So wearing a number of hats, I just want to share some perspectives with you. And I'm kind of laughing because I'm deeply saddened and irked that Mr. Steer said Campbell can go second, because now this is a slightly different focus and perspective, and I don't want to depersonalize it, but I just want to give you a bit of an organizational perspective. So two things I want to do. I want to kind of reflect on the past 12 months and how it's cast some light and shed some focus on what's happened locally, and then the perspective on what's happened nationally. So locally, first of all, one thing I would say is in this past 12 months, we've as a sector and certainly as an organisation worked more effectively and more closely with NHS Highland in its lead agency role, and particularly individuals within that. There's been an immense amount of good that has developed and come through this past 12 months. Almost all of that's been based on individuals and personal relationships, as opposed to structures and systems that were or are in place. And I know it's inappropriate, Chair, but I am going to do this anyway, and that's just single out some individuals who frankly have shown absolute dedication, commitment, integrity and respect through all of this. And Gillian Grant, Colin Stewart, and Simon himself, Simon Steer. I know that all three will show charming and probably misplaced humility and whatnot through it, but genuinely, there are individuals that have really gone the extra mile and kept things stable and kept things on track, particularly in the areas of personal protective equipment, especially in the early days a year or so ago, and in making sure that we've retained a stable and resilient, independent and third sector, particularly in the care at home and support end of things. So locally, I think we've strengthened our relationships, strengthened our mutual respect, and that'll stand us in good stead going forward. Moving to a national perspective, kind of completely opposite, to be blunt, and I think that what COVID has done, as I sit back and look at this, is demonstrate a total lack of understanding, respect and recognition of care at home and support and adult social care more widely. I think it's a group of workers that have been largely overlooked, and a large element of work that's been largely overlooked. Just to put in context a little bit, just our organisation, just Highland Home Carers, in the last 12 months have delivered 1.2 million episodes of care across Highland. That's work that goes on quite literally behind closed doors, often one-to-one working, unseen, unheard. 1.2 million episodes of care. To set that as a bit of a comparison, annually Regmore A&E will deliver roughly 30,000 episodes of care annually. So in a fortnight, we're delivering more episodes of care than Regmore A&E does in a year. And yet we've had to operate in the face of an absolute focus from the public, from the media, from the politicians, from policymakers on NHS, on hospitals, on acute care, and more laterally on our nursing and residential care home colleagues. So on the one hand, I'm immensely proud, and on the one hand, immensely ashamed to be part of social care in Scotland. We haven't done ourselves proud. Just as a slightly introduce a bit of levity, about a year ago, we might remember that there was a real challenge around understanding how PPE was going to operate, be supplied, and so on. And our National Services Scotland, NSS, part of NHS Scotland, put in place a fantastic system of direct delivery of PPE to all social care providers, which was really helpful. And the first communication that we got from that was confirmation from them that they were sending 2 boxes of gloves to our organisation. 2 boxes of gloves contain about 400 pairs of gloves, something like that. That was the response from the National Centre. Delivering 1.2 million episodes of care every year, and we get 2 boxes of gloves. So the kind of gap between what people thought was helpful and understanding of what's going on in adult social care and care at home and the reality is as wide as it's ever been. I think Feely report gives us a little bit of hope. There's a lot of good words, a lot of noble aspiration. I think what we don't need in social care are continuing, frankly, vacuous and empty platitudes and thanks and, oh, haven't we all done wonderfully? Yeah, we have, but we're going to have to do something about the say-do gap. We're going to have to do something about it. We really are. And the people who deliver the most vacuous and empty platitudes generally are the people who can actually do something about it. And many of us, myself, I can only speak for myself, it's kind of tiresome, and frankly, I'm fed up with it. And the most latest, the most recent improvements are to deliver a 2.2% uplift for care at home support in the face of 4.4% for other frontline workers. 2.2% was put in place and designed to move people from £9.30 to £9.50 an hour. It's absolutely shameful. And is that the best we can do in Scotland for the sector that we talk so proudly of and want to recognise and give applause for and say thanks to? Well, we're going to have to do a lot better than that. We really are going to have to focus on our frontline workforce. I say that not in a money grabbing way. Please understand, my organisation is an employee owned organisation. Our core purpose is to improve the working lives of the social care workforce in Scotland and to effect positive social change. We've got one scarce and precious resource, and that's people who do this kind of work. And the work they have to do to earn an hour of wage at night, at minimum or living wage, is extraordinary. And yes, they're due our thanks, but they're due more than thanks, they're due action. And I look forward to the coming 12 months as we begin to try and understand what a national care service approach might be able to do to really affect positive change in our sector. I'm hugely proud of everybody that's been part of this locally. Proud that we are such an integral part of the health and social care landscape and economy in Highland. And I hope that as a health and social care committee, adult social care, care at home support can play a prominent part in the thinking and, more importantly, in the actions as we move into this new year. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Campbell. I think despite the fact your contribution was at a more higher level, I think you gave us some fairly eye-watering statistics there, which did a lot to bring home to us the reality of the situation of your colleagues. So thank you for that. Zem, do you have any questions or comments in relation to Campbell's input? Wendy, would you?
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. I just want to, it's not a question really, it's just a comment to Campbell. Hello, Campbell. I just want to echo, thank goodness that somebody is like-minded enough to understand the challenges. I've been a carer for my son who has very, very complex health needs for almost 20 years now. So I understand firsthand the difficulties and the challenges that good social care brings in terms of what that quality looks like. And quite often there is a huge connection between well-paid staff and maintaining good staff. And I would say that my experience so far, even before pre-COVID, has been that the difficulty that I see is on an operational level where the local health authority or the local social care meaningfully direct you in a way of preferred providers. And the only one that's in here that I've been told about is Richmond Fellowship. So I think that there clearly needs to be more choice for people. They need to think about people that have more complex health issues and not just a sitting service at home. They really need to open up and understand what people's difficulties are. And I see still, after the momentum that has been driven or that should have been driven, is that I still see this huge difference between what health can or say that they can do and what social care say that they do too. And in my experience, which is a very significant experience, is that communication is dire, particularly between health and social care. And when you have a young person that has both of those needs, particularly very serious complex health needs, the difficulty is getting health and social care to work together. And that is still happening. That's happening practically. That's happened this week for me. That happened last year. That happened a decade ago, and I don't want to say the same thing in another 10 years. That's still going to. So I do think that there's an awful lot to do, and possibly more than people realise when you are receiving, or in my case, not receiving any health and social care package for your loved one. So I think that my comment, I'm reassured by what Campbell has had to say. I'm reassured and hopeful that there can be some changes made that are at a practical level, more importantly.
So I think just to carry, well, I think Wendy raises an important point there in terms of change. I think one of the things that the board and this committee is most interested in is, you know, what we talk a lot about doing things differently in the pandemic, and I think accepting what Campbell said, that a lot of what has happened has been dependent on individuals and individual relationships, but just beyond that, you know, if I could just ask what you know, what change we've been able to introduce during the pandemic would be the one thing that you would want to see us continue with as we emerge from the pandemic and work into business as usual going forward. Just wonder if anybody has any, Campbell or Jackie or her colleagues have any thoughts about that. Thank you.
I'm happy to go first if that's okay, Chair, just because my camera's on and I'm still here. I mean, look, let's just be clear that nothing is going to move forward without commissioning reform, really significant commissioning reform. In a world of commissioning based on episodes of care times tariff, we're stuck, and the entire burden of that is felt and borne by the workforce. If you think for a minute, imagine if we worked with other parts of the health and social care landscape the same way. Imagine if we commissioned or dealt with our community nursing colleagues or general practice or our acute care consultants or nurses on wards or community physios and others. Imagine if we treated them and dealt with them in a fair work context the same way as we do our social care workforce. It would be completely unacceptable. Totally unacceptable to everybody, policymakers, unions, individuals, so on and so forth. So how is it okay? How is it okay to treat one part of the service and the system in one way and the others in completely the other way? This is about parity of esteem, and then defining what esteem actually means in terms of, well, what are the indicators of esteem in across our health and care? It's got to be more than words. It's got to be more than, well, everybody's doing frightfully well. It needs to be something more meaningful. We have to move away from episode of care times tariff and start to think really differently and have confidence and trust in the professional approach of professional social care organisations. Think about commissioning people, caseloads, population-based approaches, move away from episodes of care times tariff. That would be my absolute plea. Or treat everybody the same and move everybody else and treat them the same as us. See how that goes. Thank you.
Okay. Michael, I'll come to you in a minute, but I'd just like to see if Jackie or any of her colleagues would like to suggest a change that they would like to see continue as in business as usual before I come back to you, Michael.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Chair. I think one of the things that we've, it's not a change so much, but something that we've probably embedded and enhanced, and that is our values-based approach. And I think that that's about the sense of value for the team that we work with. And I think we've always had that in the back of our minds, but it's very time costly to do that sort of thing properly. But actually, we have found, I mean, you heard what we found in terms of the output and the output that we got from people, and that's because we truly valued what they were doing. They were paid at the right price, salary level, they got the training that they needed to do to equip them properly to do the job, and they had the debrief and the supervision. And I think that really it's simple. It can be the simple things really that we let go in this big, big world, the big busy world that we're working in, and we really want to keep that as a core value for the team moving forward, and that's how we would like to approach, and we'll take great learning from that. And I guess the good side from that is that we had really high retention and very low absence rates, so it pays dividends in the long run.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Michael?
Yeah, I was going to say that obviously we're discussing some of the future in 3.5. I was going to say, I can't remember the last time a care home was featured on the evening news. And I think there's a possibility now, as Campbell says, now's the time to shine the spotlight up to the public inquiry, because afterwards it'll go quiet and it'll go back to how it was. And I've always felt, and I'm not involved in it, that social care has always been the Cinderella. It's always been what I describe as a hidden service. And though the effect of COVID's been devastating, it has given an opportunity for social care to then raise its voice and for other of us to support that action and say, now's the time to look at it and do something about it, not get to the public inquiry, and then it all tapers off afterwards.
Okay, well, I think as you say, we're looking at some of this in a later paper, and a number of these issues are raised in the self-assessment that has been circulated against the Feely recommendations. So hopefully that's an indication that we are looking at these issues now. So I'm just going to ask Kenny, could you make a brief point, and then I'm afraid we'll have to move on.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, I thought it would just be worth. Highland Hospice is a very new entrant to the social care market. So in some ways, we've developed the model that Highland Home Care has developed in partnering with communities. And I think what Campbell was saying there, it's about the disparity. So we are a healthcare provider, and most of our staff are on Agenda for Change banding, and we've now entered the realms of an independent provider for social care. So it's extremely stark for us in terms of what we can offer our care at home providers, and we simply cannot compete. And we can't compete with the NHS in terms of the pay and terms and conditions being offered there, because we simply, as an independent provider, do not have the resources to provide the terms and conditions to our social care staff. So there is an immediate disparity there in how we're treating staff. That's just a fact, and it's a challenge, but it is a barrier to moving forward. And yeah, so I think it's been a very eye-opening experience for us as a healthcare provider moving into that sector. It's extremely difficult.
Okay, Simon, would you like to round off this item? Perhaps would you like to make any comments before I reiterate our thanks to our colleagues?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think the important thing for me that comes out of this, the most important thing is actually I shouldn't be saying awfully much on this, because the voices that you've heard are a lot more important, a lot more real, a lot more experienced than me. So that's a key thing for me. Second thing is there's a message here which is about valuing, respecting, understanding social care, understanding the risks and realities of social care, and there's really not been sufficient appreciation, I would say, of that over the years. And I think the third bit, which I would want to reinforce, is at the start of COVID, social care was very much the poor second cousin. We really were not getting an awful lot of recognition of what we had to do. So basically, down to the leadership of the team that I was working with, Jackie, Gillian, various others, Danellen, etc. but also down to the absolute pure commitment of the people that work on the ground there and our partners. I was in daily contact with people like Campbell. We ended up just getting on with it, and that's what we did. Was we got on with it, and we got on with it fairly quietly. It then became quite noisy, and we ended up with quite a bit of involvement from the Scottish Government. And now we seem to be getting into a slightly, in my view, unhelpful situation where people are talking about we're through the crisis. Social care isn't through the COVID crisis. It's nowhere near through the social care crisis. We still have a provider base that's pretty beaten up after a really, really tough time. And we've got staff who've been working their socks off, who many of whom haven't had the kind of levels of breaks, etc. we would hope they would get. So the reality for me is COVID's still going strong for us, maybe not in terms of the level of outbreaks. The lessons that we learn in terms of the realities of social care as an absolutely critical and key part of our overall care system are there, and I would hope that in future conversations within the committee, we'll remember the absolute quality of some of those voices that we heard earlier on, because that to me should be guiding us. You know, what was it like to be working in social care during the COVID pandemic? Well, the truth is, it wasn't actually very nice. It was really tough. It was undervalued. It was underappreciated. And a lot of the time, it was also under-resourced. And we need to move away from that. So that would be my position on it. And I've not got an axe to grind on this particularly. I just think it's important we start to pay a bit more attention to social care generally. I hope that's not sounding too political, but it's real, and that's what it is. Sorry.
Okay, well, that's what this committee meeting's all about. So can I just reiterate our thanks to our colleagues, to Campbell, to Jackie, to Kay and Louise for sharing your experiences with us today. And, you know, just obviously to reiterate our heartfelt thanks for all the work that you have been doing and continue to do. And, you know, do please pass on that message to the rest of your colleagues. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's Campbell. I beg your pardon. If you don't mind, I know that you said I'm welcome to stay. Might not be too surprised.
No,
I'm not a very good spectator. I prefer to participate rather than spectate.
Well,
so
you're
I'm
all,
going to go.
You're all very welcome to stay if you wish, but I recognise you'll probably have a lot of other commitments in your diary, so that's fine.
You'll be grateful for it. Trust me. Thanks for the space, and thank you for your ears. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
You're very welcome. Thank you, one and all. Okay, I'm sorry that we've run on a bit there, but I thought it was very important that we give that our colleagues you know, the time that they undoubtedly deserve. So I'll have to ask the other report introducers to help us pick up time by being very brief. We did get the papers well in advance this time, so I'm sure that the committee members have all read them. And so I would ask everybody else to be as brief as you possibly can. So can we move on to item 2 then, the finance item? And Elaine, are you introducing this?
Yes, I am. I'll just give a quick trot through the paper then and an update on the year-end positions. The paper that's presented, the month 11 positions. So at month 11, the partnership was £516,000 underspend, and we were forecasting at that point a excuse me a second.
That's okay. You've obviously just had a throat problem there, Elaine. We'll perhaps we'll just take item 3.1 whilst you get a glass of water or something. So you're back. Okay.
Yes, sorry, I've got a glass of water beside me. So yeah, a quick trot through the month 11 positions. So at the end of my month 11, NHS Highland was in an underspend position of 3.342 million, and we were forecasting that by the end of the year we'd be in a break-even position. Part of the £17,000, we're forecasting that by the end of the year the underspend would be 3.299 million. So if we fast forward to the current position, which is a month 12 position, but not a final position because we're still working through a number of issues for resolution. We're going to be in an underspend position as a board overall of between 700,000 and £1 million. The position for the partnership is an underspend of 2.984 million, and that's split mainly to health, so 2.255 million in health and 729,000 in social care. Main drivers underspend across all the areas within the partnership. We've had slippage in recruitment, which has impacted was only also on the financial outturn, but on the kind of service delivery. That continues to be an issue as we move into 2021, 2022, although the anecdotal evidence that we're seeing is that recruitment is beginning to pick up. We're seeing a number of people keen to move into the area, really as a reflection of the, I suppose, the ability to work from home, but also the low COVID rates within the area seem to be a of people. Yeah.
Sorry, Elaine, you're breaking up really quite badly. I'm finding it very hard to follow what you're doing. What you're saying. Are you at home or in the office? I'm just wondering if we can do anything to try and improve that and come back to this item later in the meeting, or is it just are you at home and the connection's just not very good?
I am at home, Anne. The connection's not been too bad today at all, so I'm not sure. Maybe I'll try and leave and come back in and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, well, why don't you do that, and I'll take item 3.1 while you're doing that, okay? Okay, sorry about that, everybody, but I thought it was better to try and address that and, because certainly I was finding it very difficult to follow, so I'm sure you were as well. So let's take item 3.1 at the moment, the assurance report and action plan. So is there any matter of accuracy, first of all, that anybody wanted to raise about the assurance report from the last meeting? Don't see any hands. I had one very small matter, Stephen, on page 8, item 3.4, the text box is reads from the agenda, not in relation to what the committee actually did at the meeting. So that needs to be tidied up.
Okay, noted.
But apart from that, I don't see any other matters of accuracy. So with that amendment, are you happy to approve the assurance report from the last meeting? Yeah, I don't see any disputes, so I'll take that as a yes. So I didn't have any matters from the action plan to bring up, but are there any matters arising that aren't on the agenda that anybody would like to raise or refer to? Sorry, I can't see who's got their hands up.
It's Jerry.
Jerry, okay.
And
Jerry.
it's a very quick question. It's on the work plan, and it may well be hidden in there somewhere. I don't see children's services specifically referred to in the work plan, and I can't remember the discussion we had at last meeting in terms of whether, I think at the last meeting there was a report going to the joint monitoring committee, probably in the next week or so after the last committee meeting, but I don't know where it now is going to feature on our work plan. And then related to that, I just wondered whether the work plan in each of the component areas would pick up child and adult protection as specific issues.
So, well, just to before I respond to that, just to say that I do intend to put the work plan on as a standing item on the agenda under the committee function administration session, so that we can review it at every meeting to see whether it needs to be updated or things shifted around, etc. So I do intend to have a look at the work plan at each meeting going forward. So just on the first point, Jerry, my understanding is that we will be providing assurance to the board on the delivery of the delegated functions around children's services, but that how that is going to be reported, in what format and how frequently, is under review as part of the revised integration scheme. So that doesn't appear yet in the work plan, because I'm still uncertain at what point those reports will come forward and how frequently. So that's still something that has to be tidied up. And on the other point about adult social protection, that is also under there is also a review at the moment, and I'm waiting for proposals, but Simon might be able to update me on this. It is something that we receive reports on through the Chief Officer's report, and in terms of anything that requires escalation. But I know that there was some discussion about potential changes to how adult support and protection matters are reported. I don't know, Simon, whether Pam and the other Public Protection Chief Officers group has got an agreement on that yet or not. Do you know?
Thanks, Chair, for me coming. That hasn't been concluded yet. However, if the Chair's minded, we'd be happy to bring a report on adult support and protection to the committee, either as an information item to bring members up to speed on it, or as an assurance item in terms of actions we're taking. To be honest with you, it's likely to be more in the news with the conclusion of the fiscal's investigations into care homes, etc. You know, the Operation Copper work. So it might be useful for the committee.
I think what we need to do is have those discussions concluded, Simon, and an agreement reached in short order, you know, and then you can report back to us hopefully in June as to what the thinking is about this going forward. Tracy, did you want to come in on this?
I wanted to just come in on the children's services aspect, because I wanted to give some reassurance that aside from that kind of high level of governance that you were talking about with the partnership agreement, that Louise has asked me to pick up a responsibility around children's services and being able to support us as a partnership to provide that assurance, so that when we have the kind of the formal level in place, we are ready to go operationally in order to provide assurance to this committee.
Okay, thank you for that. Jerry, are you happy with that for the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a good update, and I think it's a watch this space, and I think if we could capture it in a rolling action plan, just so that we don't lose sight of it, because I know we won't, yep. But it's just important that we do that.
No, well, I think that's a good idea. So Stephen, can you please take a note, and we can review exactly what we put in that we put something in the rolling action plan about coming back on both of those points about children's services and adult support and protection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So can I just ask? I'm noticing the time here. Can I just check, Tim? Are you with us at the moment?
I am indeed.
Do you have a time constraint, or can I go back to Elaine?
We can go back. I do have a little bit of a time constraint, but I'll leave it to you. I'll be able to whiz through my presentation very quickly. So it's probably for continuity purposes best to go back to Elaine.
Okay then, right. Elaine, are you with us again?
I'm here, and hopefully that's better. I've turned off all the feeds, so it should reduce the bandwidth I'm needing.
I think that is a bit better. Okay, thanks. Do you want to go back to, I think go back to the start really, Elaine?
Right, okay, no, that's absolutely fine. So the paper that's presented is the month 11 position. So as a board at the end of month 11, we were in an underspend of 3.342 million and we're forecasting break even. So within the partnership itself, there was an underspend of 516,000, and we were forecasting that this would increase to 3.299 million by the financial year end. So if we fast forward to today's position, appreciating that we're not actually finished all the processing, so it is still a kind of draft position, we will have an underspend by the close of play in the region of 700,000 to 1 million. Within the paper, I mentioned a number of large allocations that come in towards the end of the year and what we were doing to look at these flexibly and how we could treat them. I think just to put into context, routinely integrated joint boards can take funds into reserves, but with the lead agency arrangement in place in North Highland, we're not able to do that. So we've had to do some work with Scottish Government and Highland Council just around how we can manage those allocations. So, for example, we got the balance of the Primary Care Improvement Fund through in January of over £5 million. So it didn't give us an awful lot of time to actually to put plans in place to spend that funding. So what we've done with Scottish Government around that one is returned 4.4 million to them in March, but we will get that back in 2021-2022. We also got additional funding in respect of the Adult Social Care Plan and for the Integration Authority support in respect to the COVID costs. What we've done there is worked with Highland Council, and we've reduced the level of quantum from them for 2020-2021 by 4 million. And they will hold that in reserve for us and give us NHS Highland that back in 21-22 as well. We've also worked with Scottish Government around some other elements to hand money back to them that they will keep and return to us. So we're comfortable that the vast majority of the funding that we have not been able to use, that we will be able to get the benefit from that in 21-22, with the first call on that funding being any additional COVID costs. Don't know if anybody's got any questions around that part of it.
Any questions on what Elaine said so far? Don't see any hands up, Elaine, so I think you carry on.
Okay, I've also mentioned the adult social care funding gap, which we've spoken about for a while. So during budget setting for 2021-2022, a gap of 11 million was identified, 3 million of which we're taking as a savings target, and the balance of that we have came to agreement with Scottish Government and Highland Council to how that would be funded. So 4 million from Scottish Government and 2 million from both NHS Highland and Highland Council. I did mention earlier a little bit about vacancies. Through the paper there at the end of month 11, we're speaking about vacancies in mental health and in 2C practices. In fact, we do have a number of vacancies across all the service areas. That's continuing at the moment, but what we're hearing anecdotally is that with the Highlands having a lower pre-COVID, it's making place for people to come and work, and also around some of the support areas where we've demonstrated that home working is possible. We think that would have a benefit around that as well. And in addition, the community health services for 21-2022, a savings target in addition to the 3 million has been identified for the partnership of 1.9 million. And Louise has recently presented her charter to the Financial Recovery Board about the initiatives that they're looking at to generate those savings, and that's approximately 2.1% of the budget. So I'll leave it there, but happy to take any other questions, Anne.
Okay, has anybody got any questions for Elaine? No.
And I've got a couple of, they're not specifically on topics which Elaine has covered there. There were more a couple of questions of detail, but I'm conscious of time, and perhaps if Elaine does it, if we don't have the time at the moment, I was just keen to understand more about the overspend in relation to police custody services, which I understand relates to the provision of forensic services for the victims of sexual abuse. And that may well have an ongoing impact. And I was just keen to understand what cost allowance had been made in 21-22 going forward. And I was also keen just to understand more of the underlying position in relation to prescribing, because I see that there's an overspend mentioned there in relation to an antidepressant drug, and I just wondered what the overall what the future projections for prescribing as it relates to our budgetary position was looking like.
Elaine?
Yeah, Jerry, the overspending is exactly the reasons that you described. What we've obviously got a budget pressure there, and we have put the budget in to fund that service in 2021-2022. With regards to the prescribing position, that's something that's looked at quite closely nationally, and there are still a number of drugs where the price is considerably higher than it was 12-18 months ago. But it is gradually coming down, so we're not expecting the same level of pressure in 2021 to 2022 as we've seen during last year, when we were really in the midst of COVID, and some of the prices of the drugs were actually much higher. But I can get into that in a bit more detail and give you some more information on that if you would like.
No, that's absolutely fine, Elaine. I don't want to add to your workload. That's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Elaine, is there any other questions or comments on the finance report? Okay, I think just to add to what Elaine said there, I think it's really, really positive that we've managed to agree with the Scottish Government and with the Council these flexibilities and ways of managing these last minute allocations, and also that we have an agreed position for the year ahead in regards to the adult social care funding gap. But I think I need to just emphasise that that is an agreement for 1 year only, so we still have quite a lot of work to do together with the Council and the Government in working to close that gap. And just in relation to that, just wondering, Elaine, going forward, would it be possible, or will we be just at least at an overall level have reported into us what the progress is with both the 3 million savings and also with the charter that Louise will be presenting for the health side of the savings for the partnership?
Yes, Sam, we can definitely get that incorporated. It's something that's reported on fairly regularly internally, so we can include it in the papers.
Okay, so I think that would be useful going forward, just so that we know what progress is, not obviously the detail of all of that. And Nicola's involved in this as well, as dealt with at the Joint Project Board as far as the adult social care funding gap is concerned. But I think it's important for us to be just cited on the overall position in relation to progress with that, and also with the health side of things as well. So if you could add that into the mix, Nick, for the June committee, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks very much, Elaine. So pressing on, Tim, that's over to you then.
Right, thanks very much. I shall try to be brief. There is no written report as before because of the quickly changing picture of COVID. So I do have a brief presentation which I will endeavour to share. So I hope that everybody can see that. If somebody could say. Yeah, yep, good. Okay, just to run through these very quickly, and I would say at the start, it's important to recognise this is only an aspect of COVID. We've heard a lot of really telling personal information and commitment and challenges earlier on in the meeting, and presenting the numbers as I'm going to do, I recognise is only a part of what COVID's about, and in many ways a small part, but it's important to see how the progress in terms of the numbers on the epidemic the pandemic is going. I'm pleased to say that as these slides show, and as you all know from the press, the numbers of cases has steadily dropped over the last few weeks, and we have a very low number now. This slide shows it by local authority area, and both Highland and Argyll and Bute numbers and rates have really dropped after a worrying rise in the period after Christmas, and also compared with the rest of Scotland, where we're pretty low in terms of rates, and the scale on the bottom shows that both Highland and Argyll and Bute are well below 10 per 100,000 over a 7-day period. So that's excellent news, though we mustn't be complacent. We're getting a few cases in, including linked with some work, and we need to be wary of what will happen with the relaxation in levels. Cases, the small number that are left tend to concentrate from a Highland Council point of view, area point of view, remain around the Inner Murray Firth. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I lost connection there. Can you still see the slides? Yeah. We also know that in terms of the wider infection in the community, the test positivity rate, which gives perhaps a wider picture of how much COVID is out there, is pretty low, down to about probably less than 1%, and we get worried when it's over about 5%. The individual number of deaths in Highland has been a concern. Clearly, each individual death is an individual tragedy and has a lot of connections, and a lot of people are affected. But I'm pleased to say the numbers have gone down from quite a high figure in January in Highland, down to 0 for April. When we compare ourselves to other local authorities in terms of deaths, that the Highland rate is low. When we look at care homes, again, we've particularly had major challenges and great difficulties with care homes and deaths in the Inner Murray Firth area in recent months. Compared with the rest of Scotland, figures are fairly low. We've had overall across the Highland Council area 60 deaths in care homes, and 44 of those have been since December. We are looking at a review of the recent care home deaths, particularly with reference to vaccinations, and that review is being undertaken primarily led by people from the Argyll and Bute area who didn't have a connection with major connection with the work underway in the management of the response to the pandemic. I can't give you a date when that report will be available yet, but there's some substantial work being progressed about reviewing what happened. If we just to close off a few slides on how we're managing the pandemic, testing is now widely available across the board in health and social care, whether symptomatic or asymptomatic, and lateral flow tests are being made very, very widely available for the whole community. This chart simply shows the level of testing within the Highland Council area. So people are still continuing with high levels of tests over the months, even though the level of COVID's going down. Then lastly, a quick look at vaccination. Just across the Highland Council area, we've had 125,000 people have their first dose vaccination. About half that have also had their second dose. It's a little bit slower when we're looking at people aged 50 to 65 than some of our earlier progress, and we've got some limitations with stock and challenges for the future, but overall we're making some pretty good progress. This shows the Highland Council area coverage of vaccination. With that, like a nice straight line going up and up and up. It's plateaued a little bit recently, showing a little bit slow progress, but we hope that we'll be able to correct that soon. So that's the end of the presentation, and if there are any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. I think that's a very good overview, as always, from yourself. Does anybody have any questions for Tim? I don't see anybody's hand going up, Tim. Could you just maybe say a little bit more about some of the challenges that we're going to face with the vaccination programme as we move into the lower age cohorts? We're faced with a bit of a slow up in vaccine supply. There's the new age guidance as regards the AstraZeneca vaccine, etc. And a small number of our GP practices are not going to be involved in the later cohorts. I guess that's going to introduce quite a few challenges to management of the vaccination programme with all those things coming into play.
Yes.
How do you think we're going to manage that going forward?
I mean, we've got plans to address all the issues. So we have some degree of a slowdown in stock, particularly with AstraZeneca. We've heard the tragedies going on at the moment in India, and some of the AstraZeneca stock was due to come from India. There's the biggest vaccine manufacturer. So while we're waiting for other sources for AstraZeneca, that we've got certainly a slower amount of supply. The Pfizer vaccine is a little bit more challenging to transport around because it needs to be stored at a very, very low temperature and can only survive really in fridges for about 5 days. So we can get it out, but it's more of a challenge. There is another vaccine called Moderna, but we're not getting any of that in Highland. Everybody below 30 needs to be offered a vaccine, not AstraZeneca, because of the very serious, albeit very rare side effects. So for us, that'll have to be Pfizer. And then there are some general practices, as you say, Anne, who won't be delivering the next cohort. So we have plans. We have plans in place. Some of the issues are like stock are beyond our immediate control. but we've got various contingency plans in place, and as examples, we've been able to deliver vaccine in the Inverness area and in Loch Arbor, where practices no longer have been delivering the vaccine themselves. And we're on a par with the other health boards, even though we have a more complicated mixed model. So I think we've got a lot of challenges, and we probably later on in the year, although it's not been confirmed yet, come with a COVID booster program as well as flu. So we've got those challenges to face in the future. But I think the staff are really dedicated to the work, and I think the plans will come to fruition. But as you say, it is still quite a challenge.
Okay, Jerry, did you have a question?
Thank you, Anne. Tim, probably a very similar question to Anne. If I could ask you to gaze into your crystal ball as the movement across the country starts to happen, the attractions of the Highlands and Islands will obviously be very attractive to people on their staycation. How do you see that having an impact on us, if we could even possibly forecast such a thing?
I think it is a little bit of crystal ball gazing, as you say. We need to also bear in mind that there were quite a few visitors last summer, and there wasn't a particular increase in COVID cases. I think it may be a little bit different with the spread with other variants this summer. I think there are lots of mitigating factors, including a lot of people's activities outside with a reduced risk of spread. A mixing of different people will be reasonably limited. So I don't want to be complacent, but I'm not exceptionally worried about tourists, and we do have other mitigations in place, including quite large testing programs, which can be rolled out quite easily. So again, there are quite a lot of challenges, but I think if people are reasonably reasonably follow most of the rules and don't completely ignore them, which is always a risk. I think there's I think we should be